Eddie. So Eddie is a dear friend of mine for many, many, many years. We've been in this industry together for, feels like an eternity, and just really supporting each other and, our different paths as we've, navigated through the world of events and entertainment. And, he's been doing so many amazing things, not only with his events company, managing a winery, and then starting a nonprofit, and now managing one of the awesomest venues I've seen in DC. um, he is completely affected now. And I really think it's so important to hear his story as a personal friend of mine and somebody who's been living and breathing this for so long. So thank you, Eddie, for talking to me.
Thanks, Meeks. I appreciate you. I really think this is cool that you're, kind of like talking to all your friends, connecting on a human level, um, creating videos to share with people, people to express themselves, like what their concerns are, their anxieties are, but also on a positive tip about how they're going to, handle things moving forward. So I think that's really cool idea. And I love the whole must go on. That's really cool. Show must go on.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Well,
Yeah.
so how are you doing personally? How are you taking all of this in?
I'm actually, pretty good. I mean, I've always been on the optimistic side of things, and just like I rely on my faith a lot to see past what's going on now. Like when you have faith, you can see things from a bird's eye view. It's like if you're focused on just what's in front of you all the time, it's easy to be discouraged, because what's in front of the whole entire world right now, 7 billion people, is words of discouragement, gloom and doom. Like this is something that's very serious. It's affecting everyone. But if you can, and you do this really well, if you can have like a third eye on what's happening in the world and see that this will pass, and see that we're going to be, as a mankind, we're going to be better because of it. And as you and I in the event industry and hospitality industry, that we'll be stronger. And I was saying earlier, like, people are going to party harder, they're going to live to the fullest, they're going to love more, they're going to hug more. Like, after this is all over, I think, what could be something that divides the world, I think, is actually bringing us closer together. But we don't realize it right now, because the first thing in front of us is how this is negatively impacting everyone.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Like, well, speaking of being in the event industry and whatnot, tell me how this has affected your business.
Yeah, well, so there's two things that we do at Impact Collective. One, we plan and manage events, like especially weddings, and then we also manage venues, like the new DC venue at Navy Yard, which is called Capital Turnaround, and also Whitehall, Annapolis, which is the Manor House in Annapolis. So it's a waterfront property that we do weddings. So here's what's happening. Every weekend of weddings, for example, that have happened from like last weekend all the way through, let's say, May into early June, have now been postponed. Um, Financially, it doesn't impact me. It may delay my payment cycle, but what it's really challenged me to do is be even more compassionate to my clients, because while we do a lot of corporate events, our social clients are the ones that are very emotionally tied. I've got couples that have been waiting, years to finally get married and get a house together and start their life together. And, it's an emotional decision when you're planning who your guests are, who to invite, and every little detail in the wedding is done with like so much thought and love and compassion. And, weddings are a different breed. So I've noticed like my wedding clients are more affected by this and need more accommodation, more heartfelt responses, more encouragement. And also the industry, unfortunately, worldwide, actually, in the events industry, they're kind of harsh with no refunds, or your deadline for this has to be paid, or things like that. And what we're doing, and people like yourself and our awesome network here in DC, is really like offering grace, offering forgiveness, offering understanding and compassion. They don't have to pay by X time, or we can move your date to another prime date at no extra cost, no penalties. Let me help you with your vendors and help you move those vendors along with your date. Let us all come together around you as the client. And I've seen a tremendous response of people, that these clients, they're so overwhelmed by, you know, I'd say one of the most powerful things you can do to somebody is extend grace. You know, grace is defined as something you don't expect or might not even deserve. And when you extend it and say, hey, I understand what you're going through, and I'm sorry you're going through this. And by the way, you're my client, and I'm not all about taking your money. I really want to see you happy. People like you and I, and the people that you're interviewing for this podcast, is we're all in this business to bring like joy and love and laughter to the people. And we're the ones behind the scenes with the logistics and the planning and troubleshooting and contingencies and all that. We're here to do that for other people. So when times are tough, like when times are great and we're collecting money and we're selling and we're doing great as a business, yeah, everybody's happy. But when times are tough like this for other people, like this is where we need to be a better version of ourselves more. And I'm not just talking about just humankind, but also as an industry itself. So what this has done is it's actually enabled me to become closer with my clients. I feel like I have kind of a bond now, like we're all in this together. And by the way, I'm your advocate. I'm going to get you out of this. And one day I tell all my clients this one thing, and I want this one particular message to get out there is when it's time for your event, it's going to be the best ever version of your event possible. Like if we were to have your wedding tomorrow, it's going to be amazing, but it's going to be sweeter because we're waiting and we're going through something together. And once we get on the other side, we're going to, I mean, just imagine like the dance floor is going to go insane. The drinks, the bar, the celebration, the toast, the speeches, they're all going to take a new meaning now. Don't you think?
Totally, totally. Yeah, man, I can't wait for those days. I can't wait. The very first event, I'm going to go ham.
Yep. And the second event.
Yeah, and the second and the 900th after that, I'm definitely going to have a new appreciation for it. What how are you planning for this lull in business and this change you know, on your personal, you know, financial situation?
It's forced me to become more, so we have a nonprofit you mentioned, which you've always been an honorary advisor for Meant to Live Foundation. And, you know, it's a volunteer organization and we've served over 2,000 children. But, and when I say, why I say volunteers, because I have Impact Collective as the business that makes me money and puts food on the table in my household. Meant to Live has always been a passion project. I'm a volunteer. I'm the founder and executive director, but I've never gotten paid a single penny. And because of that reason, I run a very lean budget with the nonprofit, right? Because when we get donor money, it goes to the kids. It doesn't go to we don't have an office for that. We don't have paid employees. We don't have bills. We don't have anything. Literally, there's a $50 fee to wire the money to Africa, right? That's the only expense. And because of that, I've applied those nonprofit, practices to my actual business. And coincidentally, you and I have talked about this in the off season. We were kind of like looking at our businesses. I was fortunate to kind of like lean up on my business, and I cut a little felt need this hit. I was actually prepared in many ways to kind of embrace that. I've also just gotten really like in the business of rescheduling. You know, the mindset of gloom and doom. I don't like that. So when a client is anxious and wants to cancel, I've been able to have zero cancellations actually, because I try to put more perspective that, look, we all know for sure that we're going to get around the situation. I don't know when, I can't tell you. It's not my place to say, but wouldn't you say that you still want to get married? Wouldn't you say that you still want to have that big corporate gala that's nonprofit fundraiser? You still want to do that. So I've been really, really like just trying to focus with people on a personal level, being empathetic, first of all, and not be about the money, but also focus on, look, let's still do this. I'll do whatever you need us to do. We go above and beyond for you to make it feel like to come to fruition and make it feel good for you. And let's find a date that's comfortable, even if it's pushing it to 2021, which a lot of our clients have done. And what we're doing is like, we're moving the dates, but we're also playing it close, case by case as far as like the news and what's happening with CDC and World Health Organization. And we're just like taking one day at a time. I think a big thing that we're doing for our business, but also for our sanity, is literally taking it one day at a time. If you really try to think about your business too much, in the future, you'll get overwhelmed. If you dwell too much about the past, you'll freak out, right? If you spend too much time looking at what's just going on in front of you, this is it. This is how it's going to be forever. So I think like you have to have a balance for how you handle your business, but now there's more of a personal angle to what we're doing. It's not just like mathematics and budgets and formulas and projections anymore. It's like we are dealing with an unprecedented pandemic. Nothing is like ever been seen like this, and there's no rule book for this. There's no like, hey, okay, when this happens, here's what you do. It's right here. There's none of that. So a lot of times we're making it as we go. But how my business is surviving is by really, really caring about other people first, about their issue, and thankfully we've been blessed by that. Like we don't just care about ourselves in the situation. We're very compassionate to everybody, literally everybody that is working with us on these events. That goes to the waiters, the servers that are used to getting minimum wage or small wages plus tip. That goes to the dishwasher. That goes to the janitor that cleans our venues. It's literally everybody that is now not getting a paycheck because the events are not happening.